This one sell for 4,320. Because I know this book, I feel like this one has been going all over the place. This magazine is Haunted, number 14. Pretty cool skull cover. But this magazine, number 14. So, so this magazine is Haunted, number 14. 5.5 is a pretty tough grade, I think, for that book. So we had a 5.0 went for 31, 4.5, 21, 4.0, 12. So I would have probably put a 5.5 at like 34 to 35. What did it go for? 43 to 20. Yeah. I mean, and it was white. It was white pages. I mean, that all on the opposite side. I was talking about brittle and slightly brittle on Heritage. Those tend to, underperform. White pages is like just add money on Heritage. Like it just goes, people go crazy on Heritage for white pages. So, but yeah, no, solid sale, strong sale for that one. Yeah, I mean, same as the 7.0 that just sold in December. I think it's the same. Yeah. Yeah. Same as the 7.0 that sold in December. That's how strong that sale was. Just 4 months ago, you had a 7.0 copy sell for the exact same number. Let's see. There's that 7.0. Let's compare these two. I mean, the 5.5 is bright. Like that is a bright looking book. Here, let's move these next to each other so I can kind of flip between them. Yeah, I mean, that's a really good look. I mean, you can see like there's some damage along the top edge. That's probably really what hurt it. I don't know what else is in here. Check the grader's notes. And this is so annoying. This verification thing on CGC's page now. Light spine stress lines, moderate creasing, very light fingerprints, very light wear. So just kind of like a little everything, it seems like, that one. But this is a good looking book. That really is a bright copy. So I can see why somebody wanted to pay a premium for it. So I noticed generally white pages commands about 10 to 15% on silver golden age. You feel the same? I mean, sometimes it's a lot more. Sometimes it goes for less. I mean, I bought white pages under market, like on auctions, on Heritage. Like that's where I'm always like, my feeling on page quality is, I mean, I know people pay a premium for it. Like those are the things you have to understand as somebody who sells comics. And if you're buying comics, you have to understand that there is a market for a premium for those books. And so there are people that will pay that premium. So if you can get it under market, it's even better. But I also think there are very few people out there that actually, when like with knowing how much trouble a lot of people have grading, the likelihood that people can generally actually identify white pages versus off-white to white, it's like that. Like very, very small. Like you've got to see a lot of books to really determine if something's gonna be white versus off-white to white. I mean, even like, and I know this again, like people will be like, oh, this is why it's a scam. No, it's just like, it's the thing. Like a lot of times you'll send books, people will send books into CGC and they'll get white. And then maybe the next time they'll get off-white to white. They'll get off-white. I mean, it's just, that's why, like, to me, that kind of thing is crazy to pay some of the premiums that get paid for white pages. I mean, there was just in the Comic Connect auction a couple weeks ago, there were 2 Amazing Spider-Man 129 9.8s. One was off-white to white. One was white. Off-white to white sold for like 18,000. White sold for 28,000. I mean, that was just insane to me. And I mean, I get it. Like the white pages one had a little bit better color strike and stuff, but was it worth over 50% more? I don't think so. Somebody it was, but like that's an example of like, sometimes like it's not just 10 to 15%. Sometimes people pay some pretty extreme premiums for white pages. Why doesn't color strike and centering affect grades? It just doesn't. I mean, I know it does in cards, but in comics, it just really hasn't ever impacted the grade. You can have 9.8. Well, you can have 9. I mean, there was that. I mean, I talked about it in a recent video. Like, you can have 9 9s, and Bry's Comics showed that you can have 10 O's with miswraps. And I've always seen 9 9s with miswraps. That's why I thought it was so ridiculous that when CGC wrote their graders guide, and that's why I tell people, I don't even bother. I have no use for that graders guide. I don't pay attention to that. I follow what CGC does. I don't look at what they say. I look at what they do. And if you you know, if you submit enough books, if you look at enough graded books, you learn how they grade. The place I started was ETA Nick. ETA Nick was a guy that had a channel that he closed it down maybe like 2 years ago now. But he still has his channel up, and you can go watch all his grading videos. And he has the most extensive grading videos anywhere. And it's how CGC grades. And so that's how I started learning. Then I started looking at the actual, books themselves and the slabs, and then getting books and sending them in for grading and all of that. And you learn how they grade, and what they say in that grader's guide, in a number of cases, it's not just that, is not what they actually do. And so that's why, I know that upsets people, but again, I don't really care. It doesn't matter to me. I know how they grade. And so that's how I make my grade estimates. I do not care what they say in that book, because they generally, in a lot of things, they probably follow what they say in there, but there are plenty of cases where they don't. And the misrap is one of them, because they say in that book that it's like a misrap is allowed up to a 9.8, but there are clearly misraps in 9.9s, and Bry's comics showed that they're also in a 10. So misraps mean nothing. Now, color strike. Now, what that kind of stuff does impact generally is what the book sells for. It may not impact the grade, but a book with a better color strike, with a better wrap, that kind of thing, will sometimes sell for more. Not always, though. So I'm going to give you an example. And it was because of this one that just sold in this auction. The most charged book out there right now, a Giant Size X-Men #1. And 9.8 sold in this auction for $24,000. It's already in here. So $24,000. And I talked about this book in the video I put out 2 days ago, because it has a damaged right edge. And I was talking about how I am not comfortable with Giant Size X-Men 1 in these slabs, because I see, look at it. You can see the damaged edge. It's all, you can tell it got bent in on that side. Now, maybe that can press out, maybe it can't. I don't know. But to me, that is no longer a 9.8. It's probably a 9.6 or 9.4. But maybe it can get back to a 9.8. I don't know. But somebody paid $24,000. They paid the 9.8 price. That's what we talk about all the time, right? It's everybody is buy the book, not the grade. But most people, even if somebody is spending $20,000, it's buying the grade, not the book. Now, when we talk about color strike, this is the one I think I showed in that video too. This is a stunning book, and it went for $22,200. This one doesn't have any issues with the edge. You can go this edge is perfect. This one's totally fine. It didn't get, whatever happens in these cases, it didn't get banged up on this edge. Maybe a little something there, but nothing I'd be worried about with this book. But look at the color difference between these two. And I don't think that's fading. I think that this is just color strike, because this is pretty common in Giant Size X-Men 1. You have a big range in how deep that red is. And it went for less, which is, that's the kind of crazy thing. It's not like they're different page qualities either. They're both off-white to white. You would think this one would sell for more. I believe there was a 9.8 CBCS that sold at the same time as this one for 19. And so that could have hurt it, maybe, that you had multiple people bidding on an almost identical book at the same time. Maybe that's what held it back. But you compare these two, this book is far superior, even though the grade is the same. Visual appeal, not even close. I wouldn't really want this book because of that faded red, or the worst color strike. This book, this is an exceptional one though. You don't usually see it this deep a red, but this is a good copy. So yeah, that's where it's the grade is where 95% of the value comes from in reality. 90 to 95% of the value. That's what people buy. But you do have things like color strike and that kind of thing that can play a big role. What is color strike? Color strike is just the basically how bright that ink is that's on the book. Because when the books were being printed, you have the ink being laid down, and maybe if it was at the beginning of a run, it has really deep dark colors, and if it was at the end of the run before they added more ink in, it would have lighter colors. And so one really good example of that is Fiction House. So in the golden age, the publisher Fiction House is just known for having a lot of their books had these lighter colors. And then every once in a while you come across one that just has this stunning deep colors, and those ones always sell for more. They always do very, very well because you don't see them very often. But you'll see that with, I mean, even with modern books, like you'll see different color strikes with, I mean, hey, I think one of the easiest ones to show it with is New Mutants 87. New Mutants 87, this first appearance of Cable, has huge variation in the background orange color. Sometimes it's orange, sometimes it's like a deep red. And let's see if we can find some examples. These are all, so like, I mean, like you can see, like those are orange. Let's see if I can find one of the deep red ones. I mean, that one's pretty red versus I mean, like, look at these two, like pretty deep red, much lighter orange. And there are more extreme examples where this gets like really, really dark red. This one's pretty deep red there. Sometimes it's lighting, but it's definitely like that book is an example of one where you can have very big differences in that color strike on the book. Another example is just Amazing Spider-Man 300, the red that's in the background. Sometimes it's like kind of like a faded out looking orangish red, and sometimes it's a really deep red for those 300s on there. So that's definitely a thing you see quite a bit.